myself again. But it's the only...
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's Friday night. It's the three Amigos. So welcome to Mitch and Steve here. Steve, good evening, lads.
Evening, Steve.
Good to have you on. As always, plenty to talk about on and off the pitch, I suppose, this week. And good to have you two guys on to chew the fat. Steve, I want to start off on a positive note, though. Your involvement with the food bank is well known to all our regular viewers. Give us a little bit of an update as to what's been going on with you this week.
Well, obviously, the pay-per-view has been a catalyst for fans all around the country, and in particular fans of Newcastle United, who have really rallied to the cause. And if ever you want to know about what community is all about, then you just have to listen to what's happened with the food bank over the last few weeks, the way that everybody's come together. Obviously, pay-per-view was the catalyst, if you like, that created an awful lot of angst. But what it's shown is that right across the city, not just football fans, but people with a little bit of interest, no interest in football whatsoever, and people with a massive interest in football have collectively raised an awful lot of money, but also done an awful lot to raise the profile of what's been happening with the food bank. And not just normal general public. We've had Paul Dummett there this week, along with Gillespie. They came along and they brought along some donations of their own. I think they went to Tesco's on the way down, filled the boot of that car up, and just appeared out of nowhere. Nobody expected it. It was very, very, very much a case of the girls in the food bank going, "Yeah, thanks very much. We've had two lads drop some stuff off. They've left some photographs. Anybody know who they were?" and of course, they didn't make a song and dance about who they were. They were just like exactly the same as it had been you two who just appeared, just handed over and shook a few hands and hoped everybody was okay. And Carol at the food bank was just so grateful. She was also so embarrassed, I think, when she found out who they actually were, you know, which was quite amusing. We've had vans pulling up, dropping off produce from left, right, and centre, right across the city, north, south, east, and west. We've had lads from the Tyneside Irish Centre Football Club who came. They've been collecting, and they do it fairly regularly, which again is fantastic. We've had some people from the Asian community in the West End who arrived today with 3 transit vans of stuff, all produce that's going to be used and is so gratefully accepted by the team at the West End Food Bank. And it just shows you how good people are. I think the next campaign, the next thing we're going to be looking at, that we always do round about this time, is to start to collect advent calendars and that type of thing. So we're going to put something out next week about how people can donate advent calendars through the month of November, so we can get them out there for the start of December for the kids. Which again is a cause I think that everybody likes to get behind, in the same way as they did with Easter eggs at Easter time. So all in all, the positivity that's surrounding the football club and surrounding Newcastle fans and surrounding the city has been a massive shot in the arm and a massive boost for the West End Food Bank. And I think we also need to remember, Steve, that it's not just the West End. The West End Food Bank now stretches and supports areas in the north of the city in Kenton. It supports biker groups in Biker who are doing exactly the same, and groups in Walker. So it's no longer just the West End. It's very much stretched its tentacles, or its support probably is the better word to use, right across the city. And I think when we run the stuff that we do on match days, which is just a conduit, if you like, in a way of supporting that we haven't been able to do, it's important for people to realise that we're not just sending stuff off that is going to one section of the community, but it's going right across the community, Steve.
Okay, mate, that's brilliant. We want to also say a big thank you to Mitch's dad, George, who is now the proud owner of an NUFC Matters 3 Amigos t-shirt. It's a one-off printed by our sponsors, qtechshop.co.uk in Wallsend. George entered the bidding last Friday, and he raised £150, which he paid direct to the food bank, Steve. So a big thank you to George Mitchell, who had it delivered to his doorstep, and he's the proud wearer of that now. So a big thank you to him as well, Steve.
Absolutely. You know, George has been a fantastic supporter of the food bank. He comes along with me every match day. He's a great guy. I sit with George at the match as well, don't forget. So, you know, I am slightly biased, you know, and he's been a great support to me. When my father died, he was an excellent support and a great crutch to have, and someone you could lean on, an older head who could keep you calm. And he's been great. I think also Stuart Penman, who we have on Thursdays on the show. Stuart's been great. He's made some donations this week. As you know, Steve, he donated for the event, and he's wanting to pay for some of the staff to come along to the event that you're putting on at the Irish Centre on the 4th, which was brilliant. And I think, Mitch, your raffle was again another shot in the arm, another boost, because that again shows you that the tentacles that stretch across not just the city, but they're stretching worldwide.
Worldwide, absolutely. I've got to say, Andrew Kennan, who's in Abu Dhabi, so somebody I know, somebody in this part of the world who's turned around and effectively, I think with the gift aid on top, he's effectively donated £320 to the food bank just for that daft bloody raffle that I put up, which is just unbelievable, really. You know, you kind of thank somebody so much for stuff like that.
Yeah.
What can you say, really, other than thank you and God bless you?
Yeah, I think what you can also say, guys, is that, you know, Newcastle fans get an awful lot of stick. We create an awful lot of stick for ourselves. We get an awful lot of stick around the country for the way that people think and have this perception of us, especially since the takeover saga started, and our angst that we've had towards the Premier League. But I think what it shows is that we are a community. We do come together really, really strongly. And it shows the force for good when Newcastle fans are working together and they're not fighting each other. When they come behind some really good cause, it really, really does show what fantastic people Newcastle United supporters are.
Fighting each other? Surely not.
No,
you must be joking.
I mean, you know, we all have little spats between each other now and again. You two do with me, I'm sure. Well, I do know that you do. So there's nothing new there. You know, we're used to it. But you know what I mean. It's a lot of stuff that gets said is in jest. We know that, Steve. A lot of stuff just gets said in the heat of the moment, and people are on tender hooks about an awful lot of things, and people are stressed as well. We're stressed about, you know, our own work situation. We're stressed about COVID. We're stressed about not being out there meeting with pals. So there's an awful lot of trouble out there that, you know, we're trying to avoid, or we're trying to cut away from. And I think what the food bank's doing is a perfect example of bringing fans together.
Yeah, no, it does, and I mean that. You know, that's why we've supported it. The Christmas do tickets sold out for the Lee Clark event on the 4th of December. Obviously, another good opportunity for us to make money. And big thanks to John from QTech. He's done another one-off T-shirt, which we will be putting up on Twitter tonight on my personal account at Steve Reef. All proceeds for this will go to the food bank. It's going to be an auction over the weekend, and the winner will be announced on Monday on Ladies Night Show. So anyone wants one of those, I will stick it on my Twitter account. All you need to do is bid. First bid can be £1, and then we'll see where we'll go from there. As I say, we'll manage to get to £150 with the last one. If we could get anywhere near that on this one, it would be great. But anything and everything towards the food bank is a massive, massive plus. So as I say, whoever's got that winning bid by the time we come to end of Ladies Night on Monday will get that T-shirt. So a big thanks to qtechshop.co.uk for sorting that out. We do need to say our condolences are with Nobby Styles' family today. We've lost another one of the great 1966 World Cup winning team. Nobby Styles has passed away at the age of 78. He did have a battle over the last few years with a long illness, so it wasn't a surprise. But there he is there in all his glory with a Jules Rimet trophy, Sir Alf and Bobby Moore. But our thoughts, of course, are with Nobby Styles' family today. Yeah. Another passing, but of a different kind. Mike Ashley, Money Mike Ashley, being advised to stay off Twitter while all this is going on. So that's all, folks, was the message we got today. And we weren't being mischievous when we put it up because, you know, we've always known, you know, who these people are. And it's always been interesting to watch that account grow and grow and grow into what it has. And I think what people have jumped on, especially through this pandemic and the takeover, is a lot of these parody accounts, of which this is one. And it is a particularly good one because ultimately it's almost been an account that's managed to predict certain events which have been, come true, if you like, throughout the takeover. So, Mitch, I'm going to come to you, mate. And yes, you are half cut. Some people have been asking, are you tired? Are you half cut? But it is the weekend, so you're entitled, and you need a little bit of relaxation after some of the rubbish that's been on Twitter today. But tell us a little bit about what you know about that account and right, whatever you want to say about it. We spoke briefly today, but I know you've got a few words that you want to say about this.
Look, the bottom line is, right, my understanding is it's an account that's been run by multiple people, not just one person. I knew who two of them were, or at least one of them was somebody who I know very well. But he was kind of peripheral. The main one, which is the connection to the original source of the account, which was a Venky's account with Blackburn. After something Luke Edwards said today, he knows who it is as well. On that one individual. But it's not one individual. There's three. And somebody said to me this week, was it three people? Because they felt there was three different ways that the account was being run and three different ways that it was being said, which my understanding was it was only two, but now, after today, where I've been properly done up like a kipper, which I'll take on the chin, end off, all day long, to be fair. There's a third person involved with it who didn't like the fact or wasn't happy, or who thought I was going to expose them, which never was the case, to be fair. So Luke Edwards certainly has one of them. Another one is my mate. Now, the one thing that I have been told, and been told repeatedly by somebody connected to the account, was it's somebody close to Ashley. And to the part of the I've got to get out of this for legal reasons and stuff like that, I don't know. What I do know is that account actually received quite a lot of vile DMs and threats, personal threats. So somebody connected to the account was exposed and felt threatened enough to back off. And that probably sums up NUFC Twitter at the moment.
Why would they actually found out
over the last couple of days, Steve? Honestly, what we've seen over the last couple of days from NUFC Twitter is vile. It's horrible, and nobody who puts their head above the parapet, who gives an opinion, who wants to be honest to help the fan base, doesn't deserve some of that shit. But then when you find out somebody who's running a parody account is getting worse than that, dear me, really? And yeah, they've done us up like a kipper today, which is fabulous, to be fair. I'll take that on the chin all day long.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, for somebody to get personal DMs from fans, it's bang out of order. I mean, we're seeing some people putting on the chat there already tonight that Michelle has had some kind of stick as well, from supporters today, some death threats allegedly. Well, that is bang out of order. You know what I mean, Steve? And we've lost Mitch there. I know he's at a different venue today, but at least he got his point across. It is rather concerning that people would send death threats. I think I've mentioned on this program before that the kind of abuse I've had in the past, is people saying that they hope my wife got raped, that kind of thing. It's unacceptable. but it's one of those things that you almost, you get used to, which is awful to say, but you do get used to it on Twitter. It's a vile playground, which, there's a lot of people on who, just haven't got the mentality that they were born with.
No, exactly. It's horrible, Steve. Absolutely horrible. I just point out, I'm not one of the three. It's not the three Amigos. We know that. I can guarantee it's not the three Amigos. People asking there. I'm not one of them. I didn't know any of the three people in the account. I honestly thought it was a journalist, to be perfectly honest. I thought it was someone in the media because plus it was very funny. It was but very, very hard hitting and very on the mark, and I thought it has to be somebody close to the whole situation. But I had no idea who it was. I've subsequently heard various bits and pieces about it. I've heard what Mitch has got to say there about it, and about that particular account. But I genuinely didn't have a clue, and I still don't know the people that Mitch is talking about. I have strong feelings about parody accounts, I must admit. I don't particularly like them. I'm one of these people who thinks that we should all be aware of who it is we're having a communication with. I see names and numbers come up and this type of thing. I see people who are willing to have a pop but aren't willing to enter into constructive dialogue. I see people who want to cut you down, but they don't want to just have a normal conversation. It's got to be a sort of something that can stick the knife in. It's got to be something that allows other people into the conversation or creates a little bit of angst and a little bit of annoyance and irritation that allows the real nasty people to then get a hold of and come through back on. And I saw the conversations. I haven't bothered today. I've tried to keep away from Twitter today, to be perfectly honest. I've had an awful lot more to worry about and concern myself than Twitter and Newcastle United, and I've had some long and interesting conversations with people over the last 24 hours about other events concerning Newcastle United. And when you do stick your head above the parapet and you talk about those things, again, people immediately come back and they diss you, they call you all sorts, they accuse you of making stuff up. They accuse you of doing it for hits on social media. I'm not interested in whether I've got 300 or 300 people following us. I'm not really bothered whether 300 or 300 people are watching this show tonight. The reason we set this up was it was just basically three lads who normally would have chatted in a pub who now chat online, and like that sort of conversation and ambience to come over. And I think that's the way that we've always played it. The annoyance comes when you have some information, you know that you can't give everything out because a lot of it is confidential, but you're given the opportunity to say a little bit, to just sort of calm your chickens, if you like, is the phrase that some of my pals use. Just calm your chickens, just put something out there, just let it work through, but be aware that there's everything isn't as it may seem, or don't worry about things. But instead you get name them, shame them, tell us who they are. I need to know. I demand. I think this reporter should say that. I think that reporter should do this. I think they should have told people blah 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 blah. And so it goes on and on, as though it's just they want to know everything about everything. And when they do find stuff out, they still just rip it apart anyway. So it makes it pointless exercise, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's been an awful couple of days on Twitter. I've got to be perfectly honest. But like I said to Mitch on the phone earlier today, I just don't even read replies now. Unfortunately, it means I probably miss a lot of positive ones. But I miss the negative ones. And if I do stumble across a negative one every now and then, I'm simply just deleting, reporting them and blocking them, and that's the best thing to do because that's what Twitter allow you to do. So there's lots of people who hurl abuse, but I don't really see them. And to be perfectly honest, lads, I haven't got time to waste 2 hours of my day sitting replying to just stuff on that. Do you know what I mean? Because I just haven't. I'm sitting writing books. I'm sitting doing this. I'm doing that. I've got to try and earn a living to pay me bills. I haven't got time to sit and waste 2 hours talking on Twitter and answering the same questions to people because there's nothing to answer. We do it all on the show, and for me, I just don't need the negativity anymore. And that's it's sad because there's a lot of people who enjoyed interacting with us on there. There's 1 or 2. I'll check my DMs, but getting back to the Mike Ashley account, the Money Mike Ashley account, and for those of you tuning in late, we're just talking about Money Mike Ashley, obviously deciding to come off Twitter. I did find it strange, and I only found it out a couple of weeks ago, that it was connected. It was originally called Venky's Blackburn. And I mean, that in itself tells you, Mitch, that, anyone, that you don't need to be a detective to work it out, that, essentially it's something to do with Blackburn. So, one of the guys is clearly not a Newcastle fan. So for me, that makes it even funnier because, it is a proper parody account. It's somebody who decided... Yeah,
proper practice before.
Yeah, they've had proper practice before.
And again, go back to what Luke Edwards said today. That's your source there.
Yeah. So maybe "call me a chickens" was the right phrase to use then.
Probably, to be fair. Aye.
So those of you who just tuned in tonight, wanting to know, we're not going to give the names out. We wouldn't do that. Mitch does know 2 of the 3. One of them is a Blackburn fan, and that's what the account originally was. So it was originally a Blackburn account targeting the Venkies, and essentially it's now Money Mike Ashley, and it targets Newcastle and Newcastle supporters and Newcastle's owner. It's very good. It's very sad that it's gone. It probably will come back at some point. We're not going to tell you why it's gone because that's not our place to do that. But when it does come back, I'm sure it'll come back with a big bang. So that's all we're going to say, I think, on the Money Mike Ashley account. Steve, I'll give you the final word.
I was going to say, and it was harmless. It was humour. It was harmless. It wasn't sort of. There wasn't nasty. It was a funny account that I think we all enjoyed having a laugh with and thinking and getting my mind going. I wonder who it is, and how many people have said, "I think it's really Mike Ashley," and for that alone, it was worth the entry money, if you know what I mean, the kind of phrase. It was very good and well done to the lads who have done it. Well done to the lads who have tried it. And they shouldn't take umbrage about anything that anybody said, and they shouldn't be getting stick. They should not.
Also say that Mitch certainly hasn't divulged any personal information or anything like that. So they're still relatively unknown to us, and I don't really want to know who you are. But
again, Steve, though, one of those individuals, has information that you and Steve and I don't have.
Yes. Exactly.
100%. 100%.
Exactly.
So everybody can work that one out. That's the one. Genuinely, hand on heart, I don't know.
And the fact that that statement that they put up today, more or less saying that being advised to stay off Twitter while all this is going on is, it tells you a little bit more about it. That that these guys do have a little information, and we've all got some information. We don't just sit on the 3 Amigos and spout rubbish. We are very careful what we say. We don't plan the show. We don't speak for hours on end prior to the show and say this is what we're going to say. As Steve quite rightly said, this is a chat where we just come on and chat. We don't plan it, and we like to let the people in the chat give us the direction. Obviously, we're going to have ideas of what we want to talk about, but as you say, we're really we're honoured and we're always blown away by the amount of people who like to watch us. So if you're a new person watching tonight, please just click the subscribe button. Cost you nothing, despite what some people were saying on Twitter today, that it's a money-making exercise. Big thank you to everyone who subscribes. Yes, if you want to join the channel and you want to donate something, by all means do it. If you want to sponsor the program, like we've got Q-Tech Shop doing and Darren Baldwin Funerals at the minute, and put a little bit into paying for the StreamYard software that we use, then please do. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to pay, don't pay.
Do you know what?
It's as simple as that.
Do you know what, Steve? Let's talk about money. 13 years. 13 years. And I've been involved with Steve, a number of different groups who've tried to buy the club. I've sat down in the last few days and worked out, I think I've done a dissertation's worth of emails. I think I've spent more than 2 weeks on the phone or on Zoom or on whatever, internet video chat we've had. We've come close a couple of times. I've not seen a single penny at all. And that's never what it's been about. Ever. I don't do shit for likes. Jesus Christ, I'm nearly 50 years old, man, for fuck's sakes. I'm not interested in likes. I'm not interested in bloody retweets and all that shit that people will have a go at. We've worked hard and not had a penny for it. And today I actually seen something else that's really pissed me off. And again, comes down to work that's been put in and stuff we've done under the radar. We've not shouted about it. And it's not been done for, self-absorption or whatever anybody wants to say. That's not what we do it for. And we do this because it's three mates talking about Newcastle United, and this is what we want. And this is what we want to talk about, the betterment of our club and the betterment of our city. Yeah. So do we do it for money or do we do it for likes? Bollocks. Bollocks. And I'm not having it. And I won't have it. And I won't take it off anybody either. And actually, today is the first day I've actually questioned, why do I do this? Really?
Fair enough, Mitch, and it was sad to hear you say that. And it has got everybody up a height, and it's not nice. And for me, as I say, I deal with it in my own way. I used to get drawn into all of this social media stuff and having arguments and stuff, but it's really not worth it. Do you know what I mean? And Marty Lawrence says, "Tune pools as I'm Spartacus." Response was brilliant. I've got to be honest.
Was good. Brilliant. Yes.
I did get involved in that and congratulate him on his Money Mike Ashley account. I have to say that it wasn't him, and the Tune pools did ask us to do that, which is good of him. But no, look, it's one of them things. We've got to live with it. Newcastle United fans, in general, are united, but unfortunately, I keep saying this as well to people, Twitter is such a very, 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 very small percentage of Newcastle fans. And if we've learned anything from the Money Mike Ashley account, is that even he wasn't a Newcastle fan. At least a third of them wasn't a Newcastle fan. So from our perspective, that's the way I look at it. It's sometimes it's Mackems, sometimes it's other people just winding us up just to get a buzz on Twitter, and that's it. So we'll leave that there. We'll park that bus and we'll move on. Let's look. And by the way, I know there's people commenting about Red Rose Michelle and Liam. Look, Liam will be on the show on Tuesday. We're not going to have Red Rose Michelle on the show. Let her crack on with the podcast that she does. We'll keep with Liam because Liam speaks the truth. And that's what I want to come on to. I don't want to get into that cesspool, Steve. Let's talk about Liam and what he's put out in the Shields Gazette over the last couple of days. Been very interesting. But I want to know your views on what is going on legally. Put it in layman's terms, which ultimately is what Liam did in the newspaper. Liam put what is going on with the fans' legal battle in layman's terms. He put it down in layman's terms so all of us, people who aren't legal people, could understand what is going on. He's been accused now of not knowing what's going on because he didn't put it in legal terms. So from our perspective, I would know which I would rather have, and I know what most of our viewers would rather have. Put it in Plain Jody so we all know what it means, what is going on with our football club. Tell us what's going on, Steve, from your perspective.
Well, from somebody who occasionally used to be ill at school and used to have to take the afternoon off and would watch Crown Court, I'm obviously the perfect legal eagle to be able to pin this down. I've got all the qualifications. I'm up there with the best, aren't I? I mean, from my understanding is that there was a group of fans, a small group of fans, who thought that they had an idea that there was a way that they could go about taking legal action against the Premier League. We all know that there was a website eventually created by a group of fans called what was it? War Fund, I think, where they said, you know, if the fans all get together and we all fund this, we could all have a crack at having a go at the Premier League. We all know it was mentioned on this show by young Foxy Daniel Fox, who's a canny kid.
Top lad.
Yeah, absolutely. And Daniel came on the show. He didn't mention it at all. Daniel subsequently came on the show, asked if he could read out the statement, which you let him, which I know for a fact you didn't know what was going to be in the statement at the time. He read that statement out. We all went, wow, what's this? That was the last we heard. I think we were asked to support it, but you can't support anything that you don't really know much about. We didn't know who was behind it. We didn't know any names. We just knew that there was invisible people. So we left it at that. It was parked. It subsequently died a death and fizzled away. And I've heard people say that it was struck off, that it was thrown out. It was all sorts of things happened to the particular Just Given page. All I know was that it was closed down, and it was. I heard yesterday that all the money or any money that had been collected, which was about 350 quid or something, got refunded. Which was, like I say, news to me. We then hear on Monday a story that breaks that there's this group of fans who have got together and putting some sort of legal case together that they funded themselves, and felt as though it had legs, because what they've done is they've taken on board a QC, and they've produced what's known as a letter before action, which basically spells out what it is itself. It's a letter that goes out to the other party that says we're going to take you to court. We feel as though we've got a case against you, but before we take that action, we're letting you know that it's there and how you want to respond. Do you want to enter into some sort of dialogue, or are you just happy to just allow it to roll on? And that's it. Letter before action. I've been involved in one of them myself, or a similar situation myself with work that I've done in the past. So I know a little bit about that side of it and how it works. And then all of a sudden the whole thing explodes and people start ripping this letter apart. Two fans were named in it, who were putting the case together. I only actually found out about 2 hours ago who one of them was. The name didn't ring a bell to me because it was somebody from the long distant past when we were involved in the NUFC, who was at some of our meetings. So it's a well-known or well-established Newcastle United fan. It's not someone who's just come out of the ether. It's someone who's been a long-standing Newcastle fan from way back, who feels as though he has something that he can get a grip of. And I understand that he's financed it himself. He's taken on board a QC. He's produced some documentation, and the QC's looked at it and feels as though it's got legs to go and have it assessed by the competition commission or whatever it's called. And he's going to take it apart and try and take the Premier League apart on a breach of competition rules with regard to, and that's what the key is, with regard to the fact that Newcastle United takeover, everything that was done by one side of that party of the takeover was done correctly, and so there was no reason why it could be thrown out. And that's it. That's as far as I'm aware in that respect, in terms of trying to explain it simply and straightforwardly. Some people are saying, well, why is it not the people who are taking over the football club? Why is it not them? Why is it not DeMarco? Why is it not Fatima? Why are they not the people who are taking this on board and running with this legal case? I don't know. I don't know what the rationale is behind, them carrying on with this and the other party going that. Perhaps there's two joint things going on at the same time. What I do know from experience is this is the sort of case that can happen very, very quickly. It's the sort of David and Goliath type of approach that can be done in legal terms, where a small business feels as though it has a gripe against a big business, or a small person has a gripe against a big person. And the whole idea is that you can look at this and you can say, in competition terms, there's been a breach of competition rules. I think this has been the breach, and let the other party and let the judge decide whether there has been a breach. And that's what these guys are doing on behalf of whomever themselves, I presume. But the outcome is that it could A, be fast-tracked, B, it could happen very, very quickly, and C, it can be time-bonded, or more importantly, it's bonded in terms of how much money you're allowed to spend legally on a case like this, because the time is short before you then have to present your case once it's been lodged. And I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an instant decision from the Premier League that actually makes the Premier League explain why they feel, because they never ever made the decision, and it's to get all of us fans to find out what the decision was that the Premier League felt they could not make a decision on the takeover. And perhaps we all need to know, we all do need to know, why did the Premier League not make that decision? Rather than hiding behind the fact that the PIF withdrew or any of that, we all know what's been happening since when? January, February, with regard to the Premier League, with regard to the FA, with regard to the EFL, and all the shenanigans that's been going on behind the scenes while the Newcastle United takeover has been running. And who has influenced that takeover? Who has influenced those decisions, and who has got it and made decisions or stalled on decisions to the point where PIF perhaps felt enough was enough? And they're the answers that we need, because the executives of the Premier League do not own the Premier League. They work on behalf of the shareholders, the 20 clubs, and it's our game. It's our game as supporters. They're just custodians of the game, the matches that take place on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday, and they're the ones who decide when the game's going on, and they run the competition. But without the fans, there is no competition, as we've found out, ironically, since March, when we haven't been allowed in. And as fans, we need to know what goes on behind the scenes. We need to know how decisions are made that affect our football clubs, and more importantly, affect the competition that we are in. If there are people in the Premier League that in the competition that we're in, that our football club is in, then those people should not have an undue influence on how our football club performs, or how our football club can be owned, or how our football club can be managed. That's what these guys will be finding out. And this is what the Premier League is going to have to answer if and when it gets to court, or they're going to have to come up with some sort of way of being able to get an agreement with these people in terms of how we go forward, Steve.
Yeah, but it's a good point, Steve. Good point. Neil, what's your view on this?
Well, I think Steve's hit the nail on the head, really, at the end of the day. You know, I think we'll have a situation with the whole Football League at the moment, both Premier League and EFL, which is just a mess. Mm-hmm. They're trying to build a pyramid from the top down. The guys at the top really need cleaned out, and turkeys aren't going to vote for Christmas, and that's not going to happen, really. Okay. You know, and I genuinely, you know, based on conversations both me and Steve have had this week with other people, dear me, I have very little hope for the Football League at the moment and the Premier League going forward. It's frustrating as hell. You know, we've ranted on over the last few weeks about a number of different things, and there's a reason for it. Because we're hearing so much from, you know, contacts we've made over the last, 10 years plus of the same thing. And it's so frustrating.
Very frustrating. Very, very, very frustrating.
I mean, we've got to remember that this action that's been taken has been taken by supporters. It's been taken by supporters, right? And as supporters, we've got supporters having a pop at them for taking action that could help our football club, that could get answers that our supporters have been screaming out for months and months. Name me a Newcastle fan out there who doesn't want to know why the deal failed, why if ended up walking away. There's not a single Newcastle fan out there that doesn't want to know that. And this
Steve,
could help us find out.
That's why I said when it first broke, there's two things I did. Was one, I had a chat with Liam about the association with War Fund and saying, look, this is gonna get you some flack, which it always was. Which I totally understand. Totally understand why people are going to go, ooh, there was this. Yeah, get it. Totally get it. Our fan base isn't stupid. It's pretty damn smart, actually. Smarter than many, because we've been through this bloody cycle so many times. And so they remember shit. They remember a lot more than many other fan bases do. So again, that was one thing. And then the other thing I said, though, is why have a go at somebody who's trying to do something? It's easy to sit on the sideline and snipe and say that shit and that shit and that shit, and fine. But what do you do? What did you do? What did you do? And the association with War Fund was always going to be a potential credibility problem, which I think Liam would tell you. I told him that straight. First time I had a conversation with him in the aftermath of it all. And he was quite adamant, I'm going to stand by this, which is fine. You know what? He understands his sources and he stands by it. And he's a smart cookie. He's not a stupid guy. You know, the contacts he has, he's very, very good at. He uses the phrase about joining dots. I would use the same phrase. He's very good at joining dots. And but that was one of the biggest things that this whole campaign had to navigate, was the War Fund connection, which has all been paid back as far as I understand.
Yeah,
so
everything's been refunded.
You know, that is it blindsided us when we had the lad associated with it on here, who I still believe was used a little, perhaps. And you know, that's not fair. But at the same time, tasting trainers, 3 stripes all the way, man. How are we? You know, it's super frustrating to watch people just snipe, because that is actually the easiest thing to do. And I think go back through multiple times we've had conversations like this, both openly on the 3 Amigos and before that, when we go back to when the whole inception of the trust. You know, when we've had conversations about this, same conversations. And here we are, what, 14, 15 years on? We're having the same conversation. We shouldn't be having the same conversation.
It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. Totally. 100%.
Yeah. And Tom's spot on with what he just put up there, Steve, as well. I mean, Tom knows. Tom was involved with NUFC right at the very start. Tom was supportive of NUFC Fans United and is a great lad. And Tom was involved in NUS2.
He's a top lad.
Tom knows the sport.
Tom, do you know what? You want to take the absolutely epitome of the foot soldier you want in your team, Tom?
Yeah, he's an unsung hero.
Anything, because he just gave a shit.
Yeah, he got it. Tom gets it. Tom understands exactly what it is about being a Newcastle fan, and when you stick your head above the parapet, and how you can work for the benefit of everybody.
Absolutely.
And that's what's important, and that's the thing that we've missed out on. That's the thing that we've gelled the news, and I think that's why I put on Twitter last night. You know, I had read the statement that came out. I read the letter. I analysed it. I didn't didn't jump in straight away after sort of 5 minutes of seeing it and going, we're going to have to go with this. I read it, I thought it through, I considered what it could mean, whether or not it was the right way to go about, the wrong way to go about, what the letter could do, where it would take you to in terms of the next level, what its aims and objectives were, or what I thought they were, and what the benefits could be from it. And at that point, I put out, you know what, I'll follow this. I'll support this. I got criticised. I got somebody saying that I probably stuck my money into war funds as well, and I'm tied in, and I'm not. I didn't put a penny into war funds. The only thing I put money into is the food bank, to be perfectly honest. You know, I haven't even subscribed. I have subscribed to your channel, Steve, but I haven't put any money into it.
Oh, Steve.
You know, I'm counting my chickens. I'm waiting to see how good the show comes, and I'm waiting to see what sort of reward I'm going to get at the end of it, man.
I've got shaving foam to pay for.
So far, the only money that you've made out of this is you've been able to change your headset. That's the only thing, and even
that's not very good. It's been a complete waste of money.
I paid for half of it.
We've even got Daz on the worldwide show. He's got fancy backdrops and that, and I'm stuck here with my bloody kitchen wall.
Exactly. But I think you have to look at, and you have to support when fans are trying to do something. And so when I've subsequently found out who it is that's behind it, or one of the names behind it, who actually turned around and said he knew me rather than me knowing them, and I'd forgotten who the lad was until the penny dropped, and I went, Christ, how did I forget that? And as soon as I heard, I went, this is even better. This is better than I even thought it would be. This is taking it on to another level. I've got my confidence levels went up another 100%, if that's possible. I know, you know what I mean.
Me too. I know the lad as well. I mean, you know, I know the lads involved, and I've got to be perfectly honest. The lads behind this approached me months ago. You know, as well as Dan Fox when he was talking with regards to war funds, and you know, good luck to them. I've had a couple of messages. I won't say who off today, but they've been in touch and wished us all the best and thank you for your support on the show the other night. And yeah, good luck to them, because they're getting off their backside and actually doing something. You know, so you know, that's the main thing. Good luck to them, and you know, thanks for your opinions on that, lads. I want to we've got so much to talk about tonight, so you know, I'll probably forget things like Tony Green's birthday. Happy birthday to Tony Green.
Great.
And yeah, legend of a player. Obviously, didn't play many games for Newcastle. Was curtailed.
Came to our school and presented the school trophies just while he was injured, while he was out, when he was just trying to make a return to Newcastle into the first team after his knee injury. Came to St Mary's Tech on Benton Park Road, same school that Menzies went to, by the way, and presented the football trophies. Was very good pals with the headmaster at St Mary's. Actually had the pleasure of meeting Tony. Did a do for Walls End Boys Club with a good friend Stephen Dale, and he's a great guy, really good guy, very, very, very approachable, very nice chap, and wish him all the best and happy birthday.
Any young people watching the show tonight, just ask your dad, or maybe even ask your granddad. Or ask George Mitchell on Monday night.
George.
On Wednesday night. Sean Longstaff as well, his birthday today. Good luck to him. Hope he starts to get a bit more of a chance in the team, as opposed to some of the bigger wastes of spaces that Steve
Mrs. H's birthday yesterday, by the way, as well.
Oh, happy birthday to her too, mate. Happy birthday to her. Well, she was spoiled, I'm sure she was. New kit supplier, potentially Castoria, if that's how you pronounce it. Their first major venture into football came, of course, when Glasgow Rangers announced a deal in May. Interesting one, this, lads. It's not quite what we were probably going to expect, you know, because we're all expecting a takeover to go through and maybe, you know, bigger names and you know, bigger money. But it seems to be going ahead. It's just been announced today. What's your thoughts on this?
It's the first I heard about it, Steve, to tell you the truth, when somebody flashed up. As I say, I've been busy most of the day and I've kept up social media. I've been wandering around Desmond Green with a dog, and I'm just trying to get my head clear about, you know, everything that's been going on. So it's totally new to me. I don't know anything about them. I don't know what the deal's worth. I don't know how it's came about. So I'm completely blind, to be perfectly honest. And not very often I am, I must admit, on stuff, because you guys usually keep us informed as well on stuff. But I'm completely side-saddled on that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Mitch, have you heard of them? I mean, you're more of
I've
the
heard
fashion.
of them.
You're more of the fashion guru on this show.
Yeah, right. They've done kits for Rangers, so the immediate question mark is the connection. Ashley Rangers kits. It has that kind of feel to it. To be fair, my opinion on kits changed dramatically sitting talking with Binzai Group last February when they were talking about doing something that was if we take control of the club, we're going to have a kit manufacturer which is going to be a Dubai brand, and so it's not going to be Adidas, it's not going to be Nike, it's not going to be Puma, it's going to be our brand, and it's going to have connections to what we want. We're going to have more control, more interaction, and more importantly, that brand would then feed every penny back into Newcastle United. So thinking outside of the box with brands is not a problem to me at the moment. I've looked at Al Sahal, which is one of the new clubs here in Dubai, which David McCreary is part of. And they're going to be the Dubai Black and Whites, and they're trying to get us involved, to be fair. And again, they've paired up with a brand new kit manufacturer to produce a black and white shirt and a black and white away shirt. And again, it's about not just taking the shirt and the brand like beyond the club. It's more about getting the shirt and the brand involved with the club, and that all of the profit that they make from merchandise funnels into the club. If that's the kind of relationship we've got with Castoria, that's fine for me. Do you know it kits a kit. If it's a black and white stripes, people will buy it. They proved that. People didn't stop buying it because it wasn't Adidas. People didn't stop buying it because it was Puma. People didn't stop buying it because it was Umbro before that, or what have you. The brand these days almost seems incidental. If Castoria turn up with a design of a shirt that makes everybody go, "Oh my God," and starts people buying the shirt, that'll be a success.
Yep. True.
So if Castoria have half a brain, perhaps they want to reach out to fan groups and the trust and other people who are significant in the fans' organisations and say, "What do you want in a shirt?" If they've got half a brain, let's see. Because that's what I would do. You know, if I was to be the kit supplier at Leeds next year, if they've said, right, we're going to sack off Adidas, we've got a better option from XYZ, first thing I would do is go to the club, go to the trust, go to the supporters groups and say, what do you want the shirt to be like? What would you like your away shirt to be like? Have you got a classic shirt you want to replicate? Have you got a classic away shirt you got to replicate? Do you have a niche shirt that you would like to be your third kit? That's how we do it. It's engagement. Because if you engage and involve, like we know, if you go and engage and involve Newcastle fans, they think it's theirs. You don't go to Newcastle fans and say, you do this, because we all know. You go to Newcastle fans and say, you do this. You get two answers, why or F off. That's the two answers you get. right?
Yeah.
But if you go to them and say, we have this idea, we'd like to do this and would like to do that, and if you present them the options in a way that they feel engaged and feel that they can buy into, 9 times out of 10, they'll buy the right one. They'll engage with the right one. But that's the way you've got to do it. So if you're a new shirt supplier to the town, reach out. If it's Gastori, if you're watching this, reach out. Speak to people. Because you'll get the answer you want. Because if you want to rock up day one with a modern take on the 1988 to 1990 thick and thin barcode shirt, and you get it wrong, people are going to go mental. But if you get it right, people will love it.
Yeah.
And the way to get it right is to engage.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly, 100%. Good stuff on that. Steve Bruce had his press conference today and ahead of the game against Everton on Sunday. He did touch on social media. Don't know whether you saw that, but he did say, I can't get myself worked up into a frenzy because of keyboard warriors. That's for sure. The job's difficult enough without having to worry about all that nonsense. What did you make of that, Steve?
When I heard that, I mean, I must admit that is something I did hear this afternoon, and I just thought, sorry, Steve, sorry if I've been criticising you. Sorry if I've questioned your formation. Sorry if I've questioned at some point in time and I've upset you because I felt as though your selections have been awkward. The manner in which you've played the football has been awkward. It hasn't. I haven't liked it. I'm sorry if the performances have been poor. The possession of living on 29 to 35% possession at home doesn't excite us. I'm sorry about all that. I'm sorry about we played a game on Sunday rather, with a £20 million striker who was so isolated that he might as well have been playing at home while the rest of the team were playing away. All of those. But hey, sorry, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, what did he make about his comments, Steve, about the formation and playing 5 at the back? I mean, that was bizarre as well. He's back in defence mode, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this old adage that he still thinks that we're hopping back to a previous manager and that he's got to compare himself and contrast himself with it, and he doesn't need to. All he's got to say is horses for courses. We have a team that can adapt. We have a team that can put out a formation that suits a particular style of play that I want to play home or away. I'm assessing the opposition if that's what he's truly doing, and he's looking and he's saying, right, well, I'm playing Wolves today, and explains himself and where his formation came from because he was trying to nullify X or nullify Y or nullify Z. That's fine. That's what we do. That's what we're doing as supporters. So when we're questioning him, or we're questioning his formation, or questioning his team's performance, we're looking at it and thinking, as we did a couple of weeks ago, you cannot play so-and-so's team in the manner that you played in the same way as you. So you cannot line up against Manchester United and sit back and allow them to play the ball around you in the way that you did against West Ham, or the way that you did against Burnley, or whoever it happens to be. So we always know that. I mean, I read an interesting article this morning where Ryan Giggs was talking, and he said that Alex Ferguson took him out of 5 games in a row, and he said because he wanted him fresh for one particular game in 6 games' time, because he was playing against a particular midfielder. It was actually the Chelsea game. They were playing against Michael Ballack, and he said, "I'm going to rest you for 5 games because we're playing Chelsea, and it's an important game in 6 games' time." And you're going to be up against Michael Ballack in centre of midfield. It's not a position that you normally play, but I'm going to be playing you in central midfield. And you're a wide left-sided midfielder, and I'm going to play you down the middle as though you're a left-sided midfielder, where you're going to run at Michael Ballack, because I know that Michael Ballack does not like people running at him. And so that told you that the manager was already setting things up for way in the future for a particular game. And that's all you're on about. That's all you're saying is like you're picking your team because you're looking at your opposition. And you're not looking necessarily at your opposition and what they can do to you. You're looking at your opposition and what your team can do to them. And you're lining up and you're saying, you know what? I've spotted a weakness in their team and my formation is going to exploit their weakness. Not I'm going to put a team out that makes sure that I don't get exploited by their attacking prowess or their particular. So I'm not going in with a fear. I'm going in there with a strategy and a plan. And maybe we look at it too deeply. Maybe we look at it too much. Maybe we analyze it too much. And maybe we're not giving him the credit for where he ends up in terms of points. And, fair enough. But it's that modern idiom of the game that we feel as though, or that experience that we keep hearing he's got, that we're questioning as in what we're actually physically seeing. And it's not personal. We're not doing it personal. It's just observations on what we're seeing and assessing the teams that we're up against and the squad that we've got. And the good thing is, Steve, that football's about opinions, and we all have an opinion on what the lineup should be. And we all have an opinion at half time of what we've done wrong and what we're doing right. And your opinion and Mitch's opinion might be totally different to mine, but that's not a problem. And Steve doesn't need to necessarily get wrapped up in that either, and because at the end of the day, it's his job. It's on the line, not my job, not your job, not Mitch's job. It's his job. Fair enough,
Yeah, no, good points, mate. Good points. Mitch, BZG, a buy-in derby.
For a quid.
What's going on there?
Yep.
Any news on that? And of course, BZG, for all of those who've been living in underground for years, obviously wanted to buy Newcastle. Now they seem to be buying Derby. So, any news from Mid-Hat?
Yeah, spoke to them today. They're certainly involved. I genuinely still don't know whether they are the majority investor or just part of an investor. It reflects, I think, their desire to get involved in football in the UK, but I suspect highly reflects on the impact of COVID and beyond on the ability of BZG to invest in a club. I don't know what the relationship between them and the two Swiss-based investors is. I certainly know that the guy that we were working with BZG to get them back to the table with the NUFC, he's not happy. I think that's an understatement from stuff I've shared with Steve today. But I need to know more. Today was genuinely revelation to me, in the middle of me being taken apart by Mooney Mike Ashley, to be fair.
You weren't really, honestly, don't get yourself too down about that, mate. Honestly,
no, but look at I've got that going on. Then I've got people going, what about Benzai Group? And I'm like, what about Benzai Group? It certainly explains why Mid-Hat is being cagey on a few things. Look, I knew, and I think Steve will say, we both knew probably about 2 or 3 months ago that they were interested in other English clubs. That's not a problem. To me, their portfolio post COVID must have taken a hit because most of it was property based here in the UAE, which I've got mates who currently are negotiating rental agreements with the landlords, and they're talking about 40 to 50% reductions on their rent. So if your portfolio is based on rental income, work it out.
Yeah.
You know, you in the last 2 weeks, you've just had everything torpedoed. You know, so I would like to know more. I'm quite sure I'm going to get to know more. But Derby's an interesting club to invest in terms of, they've got a stadium you don't have to do much with for all its identikit. They do have a decent academy set up still. So there's things there to invest in. I think the investment partners in Switzerland need to be looked at closely, perhaps. Don't know. I know they've got connections to a previous bid and takeover at Reading, which again has question marks. So there's a lot of things that I look at that with what they've done and think, okay, I don't know. Really don't know. If they're going to get the best of what Steve and I understood from it, good luck to them. Because, dear me, they really are going to get something special. Midhat is an interesting and complex individual who I really do genuinely have a lot of time for. And I'm quite sure that I'll be invited for a coffee at some time. Let's see. And when I am, do you know what? I'll sit down with him and say, right, what can I say?
Yep, good stuff, mate. Steve, was it a surprise to you, just briefly?
Yeah, it was, perfectly honest, because I thought that from the whispers that I'd heard that it would be a different football club that would interest them. It wasn't Derby.
London-based.
Well, London-based, or I thought Leeds United would be the sort of club that they would go for because it's Premier League. I'm surprised they'd go for a Championship club. I'm sceptical about how, as Neil says, about how deeply their involvement will be, whether they're just fronting it up on behalf of somebody else, or whether they're just minority partners, but using the Bin Zayed Group name, or more importantly, using the Sheikh's name to move it forward. Who knows? It'll all come out in the wash. There's an awful lot of speculation about football clubs at the moment. There seems to be an awful lot of people who are willing to, or appear to be willing to take football clubs on. We're hearing Burnley have got a buyer that's supposed to be coming out the woodwork for that one. We're hearing that Burnley also, apparently their deal also has 2 or 3 people sitting in the background saying if that one fails, then we'll step in. You often wonder whether or not, when you hear stuff like this, that stalking horses are put out there. And we've been there with Newcastle, haven't we? We all know. Yeah. And it's either all done and dusted and it's going to happen within a week because it's the EFL, and the EFL are so wrapped up in other things that they'll just go, you know what, we're not interested in owners and directors tests. We're not interested in the quality of the merchandise that's being put up on offer in terms of the cash. We'll just take the money. We'll just see what can be squeezed out of it, and that's the same with the buyers. And I think a lot of it comes down to what we've said, Neil and Steve, about the whole COVID situation, the state of the football, the state of football in the UK, the state in particular of the EFL, the state of certain football clubs within that who are literally hanging on by a thread. The disparaging remarks that are made by the likes of Parry, the way that the FA have shambolically gone about their business with Clark, the head of the FA, what's come out in the last week about football in general, and mainly about Project Big Picture, and all of that. And to me, it shows that there's nobody. Well, first of all, the whole of the strata of football in England, right from the top, the FA, the EFL, the Premier League, the individuals involved, the personalities now, they're not just individuals, but these people are turning into personalities that are running the game. There needs to be root and branch change. But will you, and this goes back to a phrase, well, partly a phrase that we used earlier, will the turkeys vote for Christmas? Will the guys,
No,
will the guys at the top of football do anything to change the administration of football? No, they won't, unless the government steps in. And this is where people like Tom Greatrex, who's the head of the Supporters Trust at Fulham, who is a former parliamentarian. It's people like him that know the political situation and are very, very switched on in the football echelons. And that's where you also get people like Ian Mearns, our good friend, who is also involved with the Football Parliamentary Committee. And that's where the pressure needs to come to bear, because we need to know what these people are doing. These people who are administrating the game, what game are they administrating? Let's take the call that came out about the Premier League and about giving money to the EFL. Why? And the Premier League are getting slagged off because they're saying, well, there was only going to be it was going to be £250 million deal, but there was only really 150 million, and there was strings attached. Why are the strings attached? Why are the strings attached to giving the 72 other football clubs in the EFL money? The reason there's strings attached is because the first thing that the owners are going to do is going to go, excellent, now I can clear out, I can get my money back. There's been a lump sum put into my football club. Now I can legitimately turn around and take money out of my football club. And what does that leave? That leaves the football club, the structure, the ground, the players. It leaves everybody in the lurch, and the owners go, well, at least I've got my money out. So until that's what the Premier League. As much as we're harping on about the way the Premier League are running the game at the moment at the top level, that's where the reluctance comes to hand over cash, because you don't know who you're handing over to. You could be handing over to the owner of Bury. If this was last season, the owner of Bury, who would or the owner of Wigan, who would immediately close the football club down anyway, as long as they've got their personal money back out of the football club, because that's what these guys do. These guys are just in it for themselves. That's the
Steve,
deal.
have you seen the interview with I think it's the Mansfield CEO in the last 24 hours, right? Classic. Absolute classic. What we've been talking about for the last, 2 months? Where he says, yeah, it's crunch time. Everything's going to go tits up. Next 2 months, you're going to see clubs going to, but we're going to be okay. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
It won't be us, but there'll be other clubs. And you're like, really? Are you still playing that tune?
Yep.
Are you still playing that tune?
I'm all right.
Yep, exactly.
Where the 72 clubs are losing 25 million a month collectively, but you're going to be okay. But everybody else isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, really?
Our friends down the river, our friends on the
don't get me there. Yeah, God.
Their former executive is named on documents and pleas on behalf of the EFL to sort the football out, finances out. It was only a couple of months ago that they took £25 million out of the football club, and now the football club's got nothing. Well, so you're going to look at it, and the Premier League top brass are going to go, well, I tell you what, put the 25 million back in, and then we'll think about it. You know, this is the problem. You know, there was nothing in the rules and regulations that stopped Donald taking his 25 million. But now they're in poverty, and now they're saying that could be a fortnight or 3 weeks or a month away from going bust. Well, they wouldn't have gone for the 25 million. How
again, it comes back to the conversation we had this week. When somebody we have both worked with over the last 5-6 years turned around and said, the club that will go first is Sunderland.
Yes.
And then the rest will go like dominoes. And me and you both went, really?
Mm-hmm.
And he's still adamant about that.
Yeah.
And why
well, we'll see.
And that,
like
for me...
Why does it topple like dominoes? It topple like dominoes because every club owes another club money.
Yes.
When one club dies, the next club suffers. So that club suffers. So that club goes and demands the money from the clubs that owed money, that they're owed money from. And so it goes on and so it goes. So the whole concertina just completely goes bang like that. And you've got to remember, I mean, I do have a lot of sympathy for a lot of football clubs, because the reason we're in this mess is because of COVID, because the government's decided people can't go in and watch football, because those clubs are relying on the supporters. Oh, yes, of course, relying on all of a sudden we're relying on supporters. But that's the fact, and that's the fact that gets lost in the myriad of other issues that we get thrown at us in football. All the way along, when it comes to TV deals, the fans don't come into consideration. When it comes to kick-off times, the fans don't come into consideration. When it comes to so many other issues, we as fans get thrown out.
Absolutely nothing.
Decisions that are made on whether you can drink in a football ground. Decisions that are made whether you can drink on a coach when you go to watch a game away. Decisions on whether you're going to get locked into a ground. All of those impact us. But now, that when they're all desperate for money, it's like, oh, we need the fans. We need the fans. Right? So that's part of this big change that needs to happen in football. And that's why the likes of Tom Greatwicks and the rest of the guys and the guys in the FSA, that's why they're going, that's why you need to involve fans. When you restructure the football that desperately needed, that's why fans need to have a say. And whether we agree or disagree, or whether we have personal angst or no personal angst towards individuals or organisations, at the end of the day, that's why fans need to stick together when push comes to shove, because otherwise we're the ones who are getting shoved, and we're the ones who are being asked to dip in our back pocket. It's an absolute scandal. And yes, as I said, I have sympathy for the football clubs. I have sympathy for Sunderland. I have sympathy for all the other clubs in the lower leagues. But some of them put themselves into this situation, and it's a situation of their own doing. Sunderland's situation is a situation of their owners' own doing, and they're not the only football club in the 72 that are in that. Not themselves, absolutely not. It's a total mess, But what we've got to be careful of is who's putting it back together and how it's put back together.
Yeah.
And it should not be put back together by 6 clubs sitting at the top of the pyramid. Not by Manchester United and Liverpool and Chelsea and Tottenham and Arsenal and Man City. They're not the people that put football right. Absolutely not.
No, Steve.
That's what we've got to fight about.
Steve says he loves a hasty rant, and Mark's saying I should get a word in. I don't mind sitting here. I like listening to the lads. It's all about opinions. And my 2 mates have got plenty of opinions, believe you me. Takeovers do happen quickly, Mitch, is probably what I want to move on to now. Burnley more or less look like it could have been done in about a month. What do you make of that?
Well, I've got some opinions on that.
I bet you have.
Look, if the lad that's the lawyer that's allegedly brokering it is involved, look at his history. He's effectively an asset stripper. That would worry me. The Egyptian lad who's behind it actually has Dubai connections, and I've done a bit of digging, and I would be concerned if he was buying our club, that's for sure. And I wonder where the money's actually coming from. And he has some interesting Eastern European connections. And he had a food-related empire here in Dubai. And then he made a big statement about how he wanted to be involved with the smart Dubai government, and then he disappeared off the face of the earth. You know, interesting. That's not to say he doesn't have the money or he doesn't have good intention or what have you. But the one thing I will say, if the lawyer who was brokering this deal is also involved in the actual makeup of the board that takes over the club, we have some serious questions to ask of the Premier League about their owners and directors' tests and how they apply it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And then I suspect the QC who is behind the current legal action against the Premier League about competition has a wonderful silver bullet he can load in his gun and fire in their direction.
Interesting. What do you reckon, Steve?
I think spot on, absolutely spot on. The way that the way if this railroads through, and if it's done in the manner of some of the things I've heard, let put it this way: the script I heard from someone who knows people in the Premier League was that Newcastle are not popular, at all within the of the Premier League, be it at board level or be it with other clubs. It could become very popular with other clubs, very popular indeed. But at the minute, they're not popular. And why are they not popular? Because that's above the parapet. But I tell you what, the parapet that we're sticking our head above could well be occupied by Burnley very, very soon. Because if Burnley don't get their own way on their takeover, that's two clubs getting knocked back on an owners and directors test, and it becomes a problem for the Premier League. But at the minute, we're not popular. We are not popular with the Premier League. We're not popular because of what Mike Ashley said about pay-per-view. Because he stepped out of line. He stepped away from what they wanted. They didn't want that conversation, and I'm convinced that the reason we didn't get a decision on pay-per-view on Tuesday, which, let's face it, most of the big press guys were convinced it was going to come down to £5 and that a decision was going to be made for the start of November that it would be £5 rather than £15. That decision didn't happen. And it didn't happen because 24 hours earlier, or less than that, Mike Ashley come out and said he didn't agree with pay-per-view and he was happy with it. And that means that straight away he stepped out of line. Newcastle United are not in line with what the Premier League wanted because they didn't want clubs speaking out of turn, because that's not the way that you do things. And Mike Ashley's put Newcastle United's head above the parapet now, and we're a target, and we're whether or not the other Premier League owners will twig on. Will the 13 who are not part of the 6 suddenly realise, hang on a minute, we get shafted every way, shape and form. We're the ones, it's our fans, the majority of the lower league, the lower clubs within the 13, 14, like Newcastle United, who are being hammered by pay-per-view. It's our fans. Maybe we should be sticking up for our fans, not sticking up for taking the money. And it's those type of little subliminal arguments that are going to start to resonate within managers, or sorry, not within managers, within owners of Premier League clubs, because they're then going to go, when they get back and start thinking about it, they're going to go, oh, maybe he's actually had a good point there. Actually, it is our fans, because they're being put under pressure by their own fans. Because let's face it, the football clubs that are having to pay that extra £15 are gonna be shouting their mouth off, and we've seen what it's done. We've seen what charity not pay-per-view has done, and how it's embarrassed, and the Premier League were embarrassed by it, and that's why they wanted to have the conversation about either scrapping pay-per-view or at least reducing the cost. It shouldn't be reducing the cost; it should be scrapped altogether. I'll not be happy until it's gone. I'll not be happy until it's disappeared. But that's not because I want this to carry on and I want the argument so that we all still carrying on putting money into food bank. It's simply because it's the wrong way. It's a PR disaster for the Premier League. And the longer we shout and the longer we put pressure on the Premier League, the better. Because at the minute, they are absolutely cacking themselves, quite frankly, about the PR disaster that they've created for themselves. And is Mike Ashley exploiting it? Probably, because he's very good at that. And you know what? For the first time, Newcastle fans are going, yeah, well done, well done. We shouldn't be sort of thinking that he's suddenly become some sort of like messiah for us all. You know, let's not sort of beat about the bush. He suddenly hasn't had this most amazing mea culpa moment, but on this particular topic, he's doing the fighting because it suits them and it suits Newcastle United, and the end result might suit us as football fans because I think it's all part of a much, much bigger game that wraps around the takeover.
Yeah, for me, Steve, it's a strange one, and I think it will only help us if they do get knocked back. That's going to be the big test. If they do get knocked back, then suddenly there's going to be a big furore, and there's going to be questions asked. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Emma Jemmons, I had to leave that on. That's got to be the best thing of the night. Misheard acid stripper as acid tripper.
Well, fair enough.
Jason Carter's got a question for you, though, Steve. He says, are you saying that the Premier League and its cartel affiliates are running scared in this case, in case the apple cart is turned over?
Yes, I think they are running scared. I think they're running scared of what might come out, and that's why I think we've said for months in a lot of things. Deals are there to be done. We said it about the takeover. We said it 3 months ago. Deals are there to be done. There's a deal that needs to be made, and I think the Premier League are probably being driven to the point where a deal does need to be made, because otherwise. The stuff that will come out, the stuff that they don't want to hear, the stuff that's already been leaked is just probably the situation with Hoffman, the situation with Masters, the situation of the 6, the way that the 2 suddenly turned into a 6, which is actually apparently only going to be a 5. The fact that that FIFA are now coming out and denying anything to do with belief to FIFA, all of those type of things. The fact that FIFA wanted to step on UEFA's lawn and get involved in club football when FIFA is there for international football only. All of those things. This is greed. This is people taking advantage of COVID and taking advantage of situations. And yes, I think they are worried and scared about what they will have to disclose if it gets to court, because a judge is going to ask, and I'm sure that the guys who are going to be asking the questions are going to be asking the right questions, because they'll have done their homework. There's no doubt in my mind that these guys have done their homework and are continuing to do their homework and will be well prepared. Will the Premier League be prepared, or are the Premier League thinking that these guys are just 2-bit football fans? Don't underestimate Newcastle fans. That's what I would say. Do not underestimate Newcastle fans, because we're the most educated football fans in Britain. Scousers are educated in football, no question. Don't have any problem with that and people saying that they're not educated. But when it comes down to the fact that what we've been through and what we go through and have put up with a no trophy cabinet for 50 odd years, we can take anything and we can throw anything, and we are switched on. And if the fan group that's running this isn't switched on, I will be amazed, absolutely amazed.
Not long to go, half an hour. If you want to get your points across tonight, Mitch is hanging on by a thread there after his session today. But you're doing well, mate. You're doing well. Nearly there. Look, season ticket holders had reason to celebrate this week. Newcastle United finally made a statement, Mitch, to say that if you contact at the box office, you might get your money back. About time.
More than about time, really. I know Steve's been working with them to try and steer them in that direction. And to be fair, the Trust have been working in that direction to try and get them to do something similar. And I know Steve and Thomas from the Trust have worked very hard with Lee Marshall to try and come up with something. That something is, as ever, may not be enough for some people, but is at least in line with the other Premier League clubs.
Yeah.
We are still in the dark about what's going to happen about attendances at grounds and how many people may be or may not be let in. To be fair, that at the end of the day is the biggest thing. Because you can't nail it down. You can't say, this is after this point, this is what we're going to let in, and this. You know, I've seen what Steve shared with me in terms of the whole trying to work out how many people could theoretically get into St James's Park. It made 3D chess look positively simple.
All of this comes off the back of last week, of course, when 1,000 West Ham fans were sitting in the cinema watching West Ham play. And Norwich had people in executive boxes.
Norwich had people in executive boxes.
Yeah.
And I believe, again, come back to a club I've talked about repeatedly, Stevenage, allowed groups of 6 in their bars. While the game's going on the other side of curtains, pulled across on their executive boxes.
Yeah.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Can you not put? I know they were told what was 5%, so 4,000, which is again. Look at the transmission statistics and all of that for COVID, and it's difficult. Look, I get it. I totally get it. I deal with it every day. There's a reason why my AC in the practice is shit at the moment, because the amount of filters and stuff I've had to put into it to ensure certain air exchange and certain viral particle filters. So I spend my entire time getting steamed up with me loops and me mask and all of that on. So I get it. I totally get it. But I still don't get why you can put 1.5 billion into the arts and say you're going to have 1,000 people into Albert Hall for this, that, the other, but then you're going to just let football clubs go and be damned.
Yeah.
Steve,
that's not right.
You're spot on. I mean, that's absolutely spot on. And I mean, when I look back, we did have a meeting with the football club. It was a Zoom meeting, and there was 10 or 12 representatives from various fan groups in attendance. You know, there was the lads from the Newcastle United Supporters Club London, the Disabled Supporters Club. There was lads and lasses who represent the long distance supporters, who raised some very interesting questions about if there was a lot allowed in, would the club still allow fans to travel? Was there going to be a distance? How were they going to do? Lots of questions were thrown at them that gave the club food for thought. Thomas and myself kind of took the lead in terms of trying to pull something together after the conversation we had, with some ideas on how things could go forward. There was going to be a press release which the club wanted to manage, and Thomas and I worked on that for a few days to give our point of view, the point of view from ourselves, the people that I talked to, the likes of yourself and Neil and Bill Corcoran and Zara and the rest of the team and people who were involved in NUFC Fans United. Thomas on behalf of the trust board, and we worked really well together. And everybody got a chance to input into it. Everybody got a chance to comment and to put in their particular issues that they had, their particular questions that I had were totally different, and issues that might have occurred to me or didn't occur to me that occurred to people who are going to travel from, say, Norfolk or North Wales or South Wales or wherever, and how they get to the match and how they would be, where they could stay, all of those type of things. And it raises some really interesting points. And so I also saw the hard work and the effort that had been put in by the football club. Because at the time everyone was convinced that we're going to be back in on that Burnley fixture at the beginning of October, and because that's what everything was targeted. And obviously the whole thing then went to pot, didn't it? You know, and the government sort of decided that it wasn't going to happen. Yet they can allow 3,000 people into the Royal Opera House or wherever it is to watch a particular musical event. Simply because they're wearing face masks and because Andrew Lloyd Webber has arranged for them to walk through some sort of spray system. You know, God, I mean, how weird this is. It's become a joke. And we've seen football in Germany and we've seen football in France and where fans have been allowed back in. We've seen Manchester United now pushing 23,000 to get into Old Trafford very, very safely. And that's what they've been, even though that particular area is in code 3 or phase 3 of lockdown, which we are not. I think the most Newcastle could get in was 17,000. And that was if everybody went in their own bubble of 6. So you had to create a bubble of 6 and you had to be living in a bubble of 6. So obviously that wasn't going to happen. But, you know, there was, well, what do you do if you go and you sit independently? What the gap has to be, how many spare seats is there got to be above you, how many spare seats below you. And when they did the modelling on that, the attendance was going to be something like 7,000. Well, the question is 7,000 better than nothing? And then the question is, which 7,000? And if 35,000 supporters, you got so you're going to go in 1 in 6 games, and that's just with the season ticket holders of your 35,000 season ticket holders. So you would get the option of 1 in 6 games, and this is when the problem arises with the football club in terms of, well, how do we pay people back? And the criticism that they've got is you're still collecting the money. And the reason they're still collecting the money is because they think that there's at some point in time that the fans are going to be allowed back in. And are they going to be allowed back in massive multitudes, or is it going to be limited? And I could criticize them for taking the money. What I will say is that if you are a fan and you are struggling and you want your money back, they're probably, and reading into it, it looks like they're going to carry on taking your direct debit. And so every month you're going to be paying for it. But at the end of that month, if you want the money back, ring them up and say, I need that money back now. And I know that sounds ridiculous, and I know it sounds farcical, but the option is that you don't do that, and it just rolls up and mounts up and mounts up. I think the other carrot that they threw in, that I can understand in a way, that they're saying that there's going to be no price increase next season. That we're going to be, the prices are going to be the same next season as they are this season. So it's going to cost you the same not to watch a game next season as it cost you not to watch a game this season. You could argue that.
It's great if we're in the Premier League, but if we're in the Championship, which is where Steve Bruce could end up taking with, that's not so good news.
But remember what they did the last time, Steve? They said it's the same price, but you're going to get extra games.
Oh, that's right, exactly. Oh, I didn't miss a trick.
That's right. But I mean, getting back to the nub of it, do they do things right? There's certain people up at the football club who try to do things right all the time, they're working their socks off. And that when I saw the plans that they had, and I saw the amount of work that had been done on the model, and it was so disappointing for those people, and it was so disappointing for the supporters that we then got that 1st of October knockback. It really was, because it would have been good to have fans in the ground. But the situation is as it is now, Steve. There's nothing we can do about it. And I think, as we all know, the way things are going, it's not going to be this season, is it? I'll be amazed if the government, they're turning around and trying to put we're all into phase 3, and they're picking off areas left, right, and centre and going, "Oh, you're going into phase 3 or level 3." At the same time, are they going to say, "Oh, but we'll let you into a football ground"? Nah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If you need your money, get in touch with the box office and ask for you, and you'll get your money. That's what I would say. That's literally all we can say now.
Yep, simple advice, good advice, and that is exactly what you have to do. So from your perspective, guys, if you want your money back, just get in touch with the box office, as Steve says, and you will get your money back. Tomorrow night show, 6 o'clock, I will be on with Ian Mearns. That will be the final show, sponsored by Darren Baldwin Funerals. Basically, they've sponsored StreamYard for the last month, which big thank you to them. They've been absolutely brilliant. They have said they're going to come back in January. So Darren Baldwin Funerals will give them a push one more time tomorrow. Local independent family business, 24-hour service. And a big thank you as well, as always, to qtechshop.co.uk, makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, who've also been a great sponsor and who've also knocked up the snazzy t-shirts, $14.99, newcastlelegends.com. You can buy one if you want one. And not forgetting, of course, that QTech have also donated that, which George Mitchell bid £150 for to raise the money for the food bank. And we now have a new one, which will go on my Twitter tonight. Bid on that up until Monday night, and I will announce the winner on Ladies' Night. All proceeds going to the food bank. Anniversary today of a big win against one of Steve Bruce's teams.
Caramba.
Sunderland, 10 years ago, Kevin Nolan got a hat-trick against Sunderland in a 5-1 win for Chris Hughton's Newcastle United. And just been sent this lovely photo, which apparently was on the Chronicle Live. Dave Morton's done a wonderful piece about the late, great Nobby Stiles, who's just passed away today. And there he is at St James's Park with Dennis Law, Nobby Stiles, and, of course, the big Leap the Wind Davies. Lovely photograph, that. Big thank you for sending that in. Last 20 minutes of the show now, we're going to look ahead to tomorrow's game against Everton and Sunday's game, against Everton. And we take them on probably at a good time, it has to be said. It's 2 o'clock, live on Sky Sports, not pay-per-view on Sunday. Newcastle, of course, missing John Joe Shelby, Martin Dubravka, Dwight Gale and Matt Ritchie. Jamal Lascelles is now doubtful after the revelation at Steve Bruce's press conference today. The good news is Isaac Hayden's available. Matty Longstaff, Paul Dummett and Kieran Clark have all now returned to the senior squad. They've also played for the reserve side, trying to get back from their injuries. So, few options for Steve Bruce on Sunday. Carlo Ancelotti in his press conference said that James Rodriguez is going to miss the game on Sunday. Of course, he's the Colombian that scored 3 times so far in his debut Premier League season. They're also without Lucas Digne. He was sent off at Southampton on Sunday. The appeal saw his original ban reduced to 1 game. And Richarlison sits out the visit to Newcastle as well. He was red carded against Liverpool. Seamus Coleman and Jean-Philippe Gambane both remain sidelined as well. So the good news, lads, is that Everton haven't won a game that Richarlison's missed, Mitch.
Mm.
Now
Right.
that's an interesting stat. But those records tend to be broken when they play Newcastle.
Yeah, every time. No, I was talking to a lad called John. John used to run the bar in Le Petit Belgian Motor City, which is actually where the mags used to get in Dubai. When we found another bar that we could get everybody into, John actually opened the bar up to her. And John's a good lad. He's a interesting character. He's an Evertonian who used to work for Liverpool. Who says the only time he ever got a written warning at work was when he worked for Liverpool and they gave them a load of boss suits, but to get around the tax law, they put the Liverpool crest on all the shirt pockets of the boss suits, and so he spent 2 nights unpicking the badges from the suits, and then got a written warning. Apparently, and it honestly, he's a super lad. He keeps a really good bar. His reputation in Dubai is about keeping a good bar, and we found this really good place that we had as our own. And then, as a result of COVID, the whole thing's been shut, and we're now currently struggling to find another bar for us. I was talking to John today. I think he says they between suspensions and injury are missing about 5 players. And his words to me were, "This result's yours, mate." he feels that the Richarlison and Hammers, and I think he listed another 3 or 4 who are out through injury or suspension this weekend, and he's totally convinced we're going to do them. I'm not, to be fair. I think they've had a very good start to the season. I think they're a very good team. But if they're missing that amount of talent, we've got a puncher's chance. So it's the classic. I'll do what I did last week. You think it'd been contrarian and you go for a 1-1 draw. I'll take a 1-1 draw again.
Okay, well, we'll see how it all pans out. We have had the tactics board sent in by somebody today. This is it. I'll if you just give us 2 seconds, I'll remove that from the comments. There you go. I've got a plan for Everton, and there it is. Wilson up front and everybody else there. That's very good, very humorous. Steve, if that's the case, so I haven't got a cat and else chance.
No, exactly. You know what? I enjoy games against Everton because they're always full-blooded. They're always good. The last couple of games that we've played against them, they've always been a decent footballing team. And I think they play their football the right way. Got some good friends. I mean, Dave Kelly, who runs the fan support and food banks down in Liverpool, is an Evertonian. And he's a smashing guy. Dave Byrne, Ian Byrne, who runs the with him, is a great Liverpudlian, now an MP for West Derby. So listen to those two, and the competitions that they have between them, and the banter is really good. But Dave's a sound guy. He came up, and I was telling the guys when they came up the last time, and it was quite interesting because I remember having the word with Billy, who's another one of their co-founders, that I was really impressed with Calvert-Lewin last season. I said, at the time he was struggling to get a game. He wasn't necessarily always first choice. And I said I would take Calvert-Lewin off tomorrow. And the word of the lads was, well, you can have him if you want. Which now, when you look back and you see how he's performed subsequently since Ancelotti's taken over as the manager is amazing, But they are a good team. I know that some Newcastle fans don't like Everton. That they get called the Scouts Mackhams and stuff like that in the banter, which is always quite amusing. But they are decent lads, and we've got to get away from that sort of Liverpool, Everton, Newcastle anger that we have, because at the end of the day, Liverpool and Newcastle are two cities that are very, very similar. We'll go through exactly the same problems. We have the same urban decay. We have the same manner in which we're looked after by the government or not, as the case may be. To the football, it's one of the reasons why I was. If this game I was playing at St James's Park, I would be really excited because I would be looking forward to seeing James play. Now I'm hearing that he's injured, which is good for us in terms of, I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be watching a world-class footballer. I'm not going to see him playing against us. But in terms of watching him live, I'm always impressed when we get the opportunity to see a really, really, really top-class footballer. And I think James Rodriguez is one of those. There aren't that many around. The injuries could play into our hands. You're dead right. We didn't do too badly last week. We got the result that probably I'll not say we deserve, but we got a point that we benefited from, which is all good. And everybody talks about the luck of Bruce and such like. But tomorrow could be an opportunity, or Sunday could be an opportunity. for us to actually show that we can play football against a team that's going to have at least 5 changes. And it's how you set up. The big problem is we never know how Bruce is going to set up. We don't know. And even when we sets it up, we don't know how we're going to play, because we look at it and go, oh, we're playing 5 at the back. Is it 5 at the back? Is it actually 4 at the back? Is it 3 at the back? We're never too sure. Oh, look, I mean, last week we all said he's playing 5 at the back and he's got 3 up front and he's got 2 holding midfielders. And it was actually 1 up front, 3 in the middle, and 5 at the back, and people scattered all over the place, you know. So I have no idea what shape we play now. I have no idea what formation we're putting out. And even when I see the formation, I have no idea how that formation is going to perform on the pitch and what their instruction is. And I also have no idea how it's going to adapt during the game. I'm bewildered, Steve. I'm really, really bewildered by it. So, as always, I'll go into a game probably, should I use the word confident? No, I go into a game hopeful that we can get 3 points. On paper, with the injuries they've got, Newcastle United should be well able and well equipped to take on and beat an Everton, because I've seen Newcastle beat Everton many, many times and beat them well. Let's see what this team can do with probably one change. Let's see what this team can do on Sunday. Shall I stick my neck out and go for a score, Steve? Do you want us to do that?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Go for it.
Right. Let's say 3-1. I'm just going by Stewie's. Stewie puts the game 3-1, and I never ever agree with him. But let's go for a 3-1 win. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see if we can attack them. Let's see if we can, without, let's hope. I'm going in with hope that we can actually play some decent football. We can take them on. We can show them with the changes that they're going to have to make that we are a force. We can play football, and that he can that Bruce can pit himself against Ancelotti, a top class manager, and show his worth. Go for it.
Okay, Paul McCarthy says 3 shots. Do you mean, Steve?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, 3 shots, 3 goals. It's the 3.
Go on then, Mitch. Give us your prediction before I ask the final question of the night.
I'll take a draw.
You take a draw. Okay, 1-1. All right. I'll give my prediction on Match Day Live. Of course, we will have all the gang on. We'll be giving a live commentary throughout the match on Sunday. We'll be on air from 1:30. Midfield, Mitch. That's the final question tonight. Supermac on the show on Thursday suggested playing Murphy in there alongside Sean Longstaff. What's your thoughts on that? Who, would you go with Supermac's prediction, Mitch, or would you? Who would you go for in midfield, mate?
Murphy seems to be somebody who thrives out wide, and if you look at the game against Wolves, he did well out wide, and then he took his free kick fabulously. I think it's time, if Hayden's fit, it's time for Sean Longstaff to say, right, this is my job. It's not anybody else's job, it's my job. So, Sean, you lay a marker down. And if it's not you, it's your younger brother. But you've got the first up. You're the first cab off the rank. That I don't think Shelby's done anything to justify it. And so if he's dealing with his injury in inverted commas, then fine. So if we've got a centre midfield and if Hayden's fit, then for me, the next cab off the rank is Sean Longstaff. So go for it. You do it. Make that position yours. Used to be make the shirt yours, but age of squad numbers and all that. I don't think that makes sense anymore. But you have the opportunity to say, this is mine, drop me. So that would be my take on it.
All right. Steve, what's your take?
You know what? The Longstaff situation is an interesting one because the best performances I've seen, I'm sure, when he's played just behind the front two, you know, and he's played in that
True.
sort of advanced role, whether it's part of a diamond or whether it's been as a number 10. But we seem to have an abundance of players all of a sudden who want to play number 10. But that's the nature of football at the moment. It's number 10's become like the number to wear. It's sort of like we're all following on from Messi, and Messi wears number 10, so everybody else has to. You know, Maradona wore it, Messi has to wear it, so everybody else, if you're a superstar or you've got the potential to be a superstar, or you've got the inclination or the mentality that you should be a superstar, that's the position you want to play. None of them would lace Peter Beardsley's boots as the number 10, by the way. But that's probably another. I think that in terms of Murphy, I thought last week he played really, really well. I was impressed with the lad. I went to an event at the training ground a couple of years ago, and I sat alongside him. It was something to do with a thing they were doing for Match of the Day with about the 12th Man Project and about men's mental health. And they brought along some lads who have been going through this physical activity program that I was part of, and then we brought some of the players and they did this Match of the Day review, and I sat next to Jacob, and he was a smashing kid, really nice lad, very quiet, and I remember at the time thinking, you need to shake him up, you need to he's a confidence kid, as in he needs to be given the confidence as opposed to having the confidence. And I'd love to think he could stay in the team after last week, after the goal and the way that he probably feels, and from his own mental point of view, he could be a really, really good asset because he's got the ability, and he is a nice kid and a decent kid. And I'm not saying that disparagingly. I'm not saying it because of any other reason. And that's the way that I personally felt when talking to him, you know. And most of the squad are like that, to be perfectly honest. When the other guys that were around the table that we chatted to, and then we had a kick around with and a bit of a laugh and a joke on with, you know, we're exactly the same. They're just normal human beings at the end of the day. And sometimes we'll build these people up and put them on pedestals just to knock them down. But I'd love to see Murphy get another opportunity, and maybe we will play with a 5 again. But the advantage of a 5 is that you can turn it into a 3, providing you've got the 3 central midfielders who have the mobility to do that. This could be Shaw's opportunity to play in the centre. This could be Fernandez playing a little bit wide, and this could be either Dummett coming in, or alternatively Clark if he's fit. I'm not sure Clark is fit enough, and you could probably correct us on that. But it might be Dummett that comes in for Latels. Let's see. But wherever they play, we know that the lads do try, you know, and sometimes things just don't come off, and sometimes they're hamstrung, and sometimes they're kept back, and sometimes it's a tactic, sometimes it's a formation. But a lot of it is to do with confidence. And with Jacob Murphy, I think he's probably buzzing this week after the performance he put in and the goal that he scored, which at the end of the day, it was a really good goal, Steve.
Yeah, was brilliant goal, and we'll wish him all the best and hope that he can continue his good form in a black and white shirt. Lads, as always, been a really eventful show, plenty to talk about, and as I'm sure the Twitter fallout will continue over the weekend, I suggest you switch your phones off and completely ignore it. I've been fighting a few fires online during the show, and it's absolutely hilarious. People saying that we've called certain people liars, which of course we haven't. Anyone who's watched the show all the way through the night, we haven't. We're certainly very cautious as to what we say when we're talking about other people on this show. It's absolutely hilarious.
What did Steve when they shouted out, "You're a liar"? He shouted back, "I don't believe you."
I love it. Mitch deserves the hanging in there trophy this week, says Jason Carter. Thanks, lads. Have a good show. Good night. Everyone's thoroughly enjoyed it. And listen, big thank you to everybody. If it's the first time you've watched, please subscribe to the channel. As I say, it is free. Click the subscribe button. And I will be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock with Ian Mearns giving his political view on all things at Newcastle United. And then the weekend, of course, I will be back with Match Day Live. That will be at 1:30 on Sunday. And then Monday night, of course, we have Ladies' Night. If you haven't watched last week's, it's well worth a watch. And Tuesday night, we will have the Shields Gazette, Liam Kennedy back. And back on the normal Wednesday night, we will have Malcolm MacDonald and the newly married John Gibson. And then we'll be back to Thursday for Retro Night. And we've had a few people asking who is Retro Night this week? Which team will we be focusing on? And it will be Chelsea we will be looking at. So Newcastle games against Chelsea. If you've got any memories from those games over the years, then tune in and share them with us. And then Friday again, it will be the three Amigos. So Mitch has finally fell off his stool and taken his phone with him. But a big thank you for him for coming on tonight and dispelling all the myths and stories about Money Mike Ashley. And Steve, great to have you on as well, mate. I hope you have an enjoyable Friday evening. I'm
sure. Well, it's interesting that we've got Ian doing the wake tomorrow. And it's a one-person wake, so there's only one person allowed. And does that mean he's really going to be social distancing? So that's excellent.
Brilliant. So a lot of love for Mitch tonight as well, which is really nice, and I'm sure he'll appreciate it when he watches it back. Steve, see you again soon, mate. Take care. Good night.
Take care. Good night, everybody.